Good evening. We'll call the Wednesday, January 17th Town of Rome Board meeting to order. Roll call starting on my left, please.
Capel here.
Minter here.
Jumati here.
Bauerheit here.
Certify the posting of the meeting, please.
I certify that on Monday, January 15th, 2024, the agenda for the Town of Rome Board meeting for Wednesday, January 17th, 2024 was posted at the Rome Town Hall at 3:15 p.m., posted at Quick Trip LLC at 4:30 p.m., posted at Nakusa Port Edward State Bank at 4:20 p.m., and emailed to the Wisconsin Rapids Tribune at 3:25 p.m.
Okay. Approve the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda as written.
A second motion.
Motion by Supervisor Capel, second by Supervisor Bauerheit to approve the agenda as printed. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved. Pledge of Allegiance. Item 6, citizen comments. Do we have any cards this evening? Okay, thank you. No action contemplated except possible referral to future agendas. Informational updates, meeting recaps, recent correspondence, current events, and announcements. Starting on my left, please.
I have nothing.
I just have a reminder, check the library website. There's lots of fun, interesting things going on this winter at the library, including a Mardi Gras / Fat Tuesday chocolate celebration on February 13th in the late afternoon, early evening. So check out the library. And then as Supervisor Cole is out of the country, reminder, check the town website for the most recent town news, and for activities going on in Rome, go to visitRomeWI.com.
Supervisor
I have
Bauerheit.
nothing.
Okay. I have an update. Just want to give you an update. We have information we received. I'm just looking for it here. We received an update from the presenters from our November 7th town hall meeting. We had asked for some information on the questions that we had there. They sent us some flyers, which we'll get for the solar meeting. There is no news over the holidays as far as their filing for the CPCN. They have not determined what land they'll be using. They're not ready to file yet, and it's still in the proposal stages, so they don't know how much land they'll be using. So there's nothing going on at this time. The information they've provided to us we'll put on the website, and the answers they said are on those flyers. So the only other additional information they provided was that one additional slide they put in the original presentation. So there's nothing new or developing with that. The other update that we received was regarding the legislation on the wakeboarding. I know Supervisor Cole was working diligently prior to the holidays with a gentleman up north at Diamond Lake. Let's see here. We had some response and some interest regarding articles in the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. States around us and out east were proposing stricter legislation, some not quite as strict, regarding wake surfing wake activities. We're being encouraged to look at some legislation. We've talked previously about waiting. It'd be prudent to see what the legislature is going to do. That's still on the floor. Some are saying we should look at doing something on our own, and we're going to probably just wait and see what they do. So those are updates on those two items. We've been asked about them. So I just wanted to give you an update on that. Anybody else? Okay, we'll move on then to number 8, department and committee reports. Any questions or comments?
I have questions, but I'll email them since the party's not here.
Okay. Anybody else? Again, I'll just provide a reminder that the EMS contract is coming up for renegotiation in March. The commissioners had met in December. Everybody is interested in renewing and seeing what will be proposed, and there has been expressed interest in possible other communities, so we'll see what happens with that. So information will be brought forward soon regarding that. Any other comments regarding the reports? Okay, we'll move on. Discussion and possible action on the following items. Discussion and action approval of the January 4, 2024 meeting minutes.
Move to approve the January 4th, 2024 minutes.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Minter, second by Supervisor Bauerheit to approve the January 4, 2024 meeting minutes. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 10, discussion and action. Checks, vouchers, receipts, and journal entries. Approved checks number 45974 through 46047, totaling $206,116.54. Auto payments totaling $50,315.62. State Social Security Medicare withholdings totaling $43,885.51. Payroll vouchers V21462 through V21579, totaling $102.348.17. Check number 21666 totaling $714.72. Receipts number $252.09 through Receipts number 25209 through 25258, totaling $5,844,788.21.
I'll move that the checks, vouchers, receipts, and journal entries be approved as written.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Capel, second by Supervisor Minter to approve the checks, vouchers, receipts, and journal entries as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Yeah. Here's the number right here for you. You got it? Okay. Discussion and possible action. Approve the professional services agreement from MSA Professional Services, Inc. for the Rome Town Center Master Park Plan realignment as recommended by the Plan Commission on November 14th, 2023, and approved by the Town Board on Thursday, November 16th, 2023. Virtual presentation by Rain Garner, PE, Senior Project Engineer.
Cool, hopefully you can hear me. It did kick me out of the video part, which is okay, I guess. Can you
Okay.
hear me?
Oh, we can't see you now.
Can turn you up a little more.
Oh, okay.
We're good.
Okay, perfect. So, yeah, I apologize, it's the way the system works, it kicked me out of the video part of the call, but, thank you again for having me. I'm with MSA Professional Services, I'm Rain Gardner. I lead up a, Parks and Recreation, team, as well as I also one of our park and, recreation, practice leaders. So we do park work across the country. I've actually worked for the town before, if you're not aware of who I am, and helping with the overall splash pad project originally back a few years ago. And so Lori had reached out again because we did help with the overall town park master plan to build out what that vision might look like at the time. And it sounds like you guys have made additional headway on other additional amenities being built within the park space. And just as any other community too, you know, as a phased park project, the opportunity to look at, you know, the overall master plan again and then revisualize what might actually be needed in the park, as well as what's up and coming for additional amenities or new amenities, or what has fallen off as trends that you don't see the town needing. A lot of communities actually go back and revisualize the master plan itself. And so what Lori and I have been talking about in the proposal in front of you today is to do just that. So my understanding is you're in the midst of developing your comprehensive outdoor rec plan again, and updating what the town is looking for recreation and potential park space. And so this is the perfect time to do an update to this master plan based on the conversations, from what I understand, have been happening, and the amenities that you're looking to potentially put into the park space, or where else you might put those as well. So this contract talks about updating the master plan, where we meet with you, put those amenities, rearrange them on the site plan, review it again, and then hopefully you guys would look to adopt the updated master plan to move it forward. And that consideration would have a cost estimate, and then we can discuss any potential phasing and you know, obviously as you're updating your comprehensive outdoor work plan, the funding opportunities that might be out there as well. So we did lay out a plan, knowing that there's maybe some potential amenities coming up this year that you'd like to implement. So we'd be looking to try to wrap up this plan pretty quickly, starting in February and having things wrapped up by March for final adoption in April. I guess with that, I would entertain any other questions you might have, or any other comments.
Yeah, I was wondering, is there a reason why you would want to conduct soil borings? We've pretty much been able to discount that and any other architectural or archaeological things that may be there. So I don't think that's necessary.
So there's a list of additional services that is listed on our contract, and that's pretty standard contract language that we put on there that could be added depending on the direction of the master planning process. It's not needed, and it's not a part of the original scope here. But if somehow you wanted to move forward with one of the amenities of the plan to be developed, we could move into a design contract and then do some further subsurface exploration if needed. So it's just highlighting services that we could add on if the town desired at a later date during the project. But again, it's not part of the original scope of services here. The scope of services here is to update you and get you an updated 2D colored concept plan that lays out the amenities you're looking to put into the park, and then give you a cost estimate. So that's a helping kind of guidance tool for the next steps, which would be design of any of those amenities, again, which is not a part of this contract.
Okay.
Rain, you had given a timeline, I believe originally. If you could just touch on that a little bit, how you said some of that might overlap in the February, March timeframe, and then March and April, and then actually with building the pickleball courts, you said those could be done by when? Can you just kind of go over some of that with the meetings, and then how the build would take place, the bidding process, and then the actual build with the pickleball courts?
Yeah, so this master plan project would hopefully help cite where the pickleball courts would go on the overall general property itself. But again, this is high level planning. Then as we go through that process in February and March, we would have an idea where those would go. And so then if the town, which it sounds like you guys are pretty strongly looking to move forward, would be to move into a design phase, a different contract to design the pickleball courts and actually get them implemented on the plan and get those out to bid for construction based on cost. So that could quickly roll, if we have a pretty solid idea as to what the master plan is going to look like in March, at that point after our conversations, and before maybe even final adoption, we could, in talking with Lori, we have design background in doing pickleball courts, and we could move into an amendment or additional contract to do the design of the pickleball courts, starting, right from March into April, trying to get those out to bid so that you would have some pickleball courts hopefully constructed potentially in June and July, so that you still can get some use out of them yet this year and this season. The biggest challenge in that is just how quickly the town can move forward and decide if they want to move forward with the design, and then getting that technically out to bid to meet the municipal law, obviously, and bidding requirements, and having it out on the streets long enough to get a good contractor that gives you a good bid, and then get them under contract and get them under construction.
And the other
So
question,
it's
oh,
tight,
sorry,
but
Rain.
it would be feasible to, get those still built yet this year, if, as long as the master planning process can move forward and the site can be locked down quickly in that process.
And these pictures that you provided us, these are the ones that are up in Whitterfield and Wisconsin Rapids. You were a part of that project, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And the one was a tennis court that converts to pickleball courts, so then you're not really, I mean, you have tennis that can also be pickleball courts, so you have additional pickleball courts?
Correct. A lot of communities are looking for those opportunities to take tennis and take the tennis courts and build them into a flex space depending on how many pickleball courts they're looking to do. Pickleball obviously is a very exciting sport and growing across the country, and the demand, I can tell you on pretty much all of my park projects, there's a demand to add a pickleball court, at least one it seems like, and so trying to make sure that they're set up properly in the right location based on the use and the turnover and the activity and the noise is definitely something we want to consider as part of this project. And then how many, I know you guys have been talking about a number of them, and then even the consideration of expansion is a topic that we want to explore, just because I can tell you in pretty much all of my park projects, again, the question is it enough pickleball courts we're building now, and what does it look like if we want to expand? And so those tennis court potential and offering tennis still and having them convert into a flex space for pickleball is important, so.
How many, just out of curiosity, Rain, how high is that? Do you know how high that fence is up in Rapids there? I know that's a question that'll probably come up at Plan Commission. How high is that fence for those courts there?
For the tennis, is for sure, if I remember correctly, 10 feet. The in-between pickleball fencing can be lower. I think it can be actually 6 feet, something like that. I apologize, I'd have to look again at the specs. And the standards have changed based on how you can lay out, so it really depends on the final layout of the courts, and then how tall the fencing has to be. We started to do the low side fencing along the sides of the court, so people can use it for viewing and whatnot, so that can go down to 3 feet on the sides. So it's really, and then it's really actually up to the town as to what you would like to see for fencing around them.
And do you know about how many acres this is with those courts up at Whitterfield? Do you recall?
I don't
Okay.
offhand.
No, that's all right.
I can maybe try to find out right out here.
No, that's all right. I just was curious, but those were my questions for now. I should let others have a chance.
I guess the only comment I have is I like the idea of expanding and including what had at one time been planned for a parking lot into the park, and not making it a parking lot.
I think it's a better use of the land, and even Jeff Sanders had said that when he was here working with us on the corp. I mean, and Sam has said that too. That's our advisor for, planning and land use. It's a better use of the land than using it as a parking lot. It's valuable land, and we're not going to grow any more land.
Yeah. And it gives us a lot of options for laying out courts.
And plus the noise with being so close to the band shell. That was a comment that came up by many people. Even Supervisor Cole had mentioned. I don't want to speak for her. She's not here. I don't know if she could hear us online, but she had brought that concern up too, as did others who were in the meeting that night for the corp.
I think
About the
that we
noise
had
concern.
decided that we would close the pickleball courts during a concert. They would not be operating.
Even so, that was the concern at Plan Commission and at Town Board, that the courts are a noise concern, and having it close to the band shell.
Yeah, I think at the Plan Commission, the concern that was voiced about noise was that it might carry over possibly as far north as the gazebo.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
We've got a landscaping plan here that kind of would mitigate that noise, and that it would stop the progression of the noise to the north, because we would have plantings all along the north side of the pickleball court in terms of bushes and trees that would help block the noise.
I think we lost. Did we lose her? Well, I think
No, I'm
that's
still here.
okay.
Just
I think that's one thing though, with at least having MSA help us. They would help us realign that and that was the steps that we had talked about in the meeting at Plan Commission and at Town Board, is that we would have this, we would have them help us. We would go through the corp, and then we would have a public hearing, which is part of the corp that we agreed to in those two meetings, to really work through all of that to make that final decision as to where those courts would actually go. I don't know, I think that would be an important part of the process. Any other comments or?
Move to approve the professional services agreement with MSA Professional Services Incorporated at the sum of $7,500 for an update to the Rome Town Center Park Master Plan.
I'll second.
Right, we have a motion by Supervisor Minter, a second by Supervisor Capel, to approve the update to the Rome Town Center, to approve the professional services agreement from MSA Professional Services, Inc. for the Rome Town Center Master Plan realignment as recommended by the Plan Commission in November and approved by the Town Board. Any more discussion?
We have funds for this available for the contract?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Do you want to say that they would not exceed the 7,500 for the lump sum fee?
It probably would be prudent, but I
I think the motion
think
had,
the motion was.
Oh, I'm very sorry. I
No, that's
missed
fine.
that. I'm very
It's in there.
sorry.
It's in there already.
All right, I'm very sorry. Okay. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Rain, thank you very much.
Yep.
We'll get with you, and then we'll set up those dates to proceed with the dates for the meeting according to what you've got in your proposal here.
Sounds fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and the other thing is that you probably need to recognize that we do have a landscaping plan, so we'd probably want you to be aware of that and have a copy of it.
Perfect. Yeah. That sounds good.
We have not.
Thank you, everybody.
We'll have
Thank
to
you.
bring. Okay. Thank you very much, Rain.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. What do we'll have to bring that back to the town board then for discussion, or how do we process that?
sure. So, just general thoughts to it. Likely MSA will be following up with us on kind of anticipated rollout, and we'll be having some conversations about maybe point person and things to consider as they are working through this master plan. There certainly may be elements of the work that has been done previously that might be reference points for them. So I would say that what was talked about as far as getting that to them as a possible consideration would be probably a prudent step. And then just wait for them to contact you and talk about how the rollout, how phase one or the rollout is going to go. So
Okay.
again, it's I think it's just a reference point at this point, right?
Okay.
Nothing's been approved. So,
Okay.
they can use that as a reference point to putting together their master plan.
Okay. A reference point for the master plan? All right. Thank you. If you can note that, that's a reference point for the master plan. All right. Item number 12, discussion and possible action, amendment to resolution 23-22, general wage and per diems. Move to approve the amendment to resolution 23-22, general wage and per diems.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion? Jason, did you want to give us some
These are just
information on this?
clarifications based on the job offers. The clerk treasurer was listed at the wrong year rate, as was the support specialist. The last year's rate was listed, and the treasurer's rate's not correct for the whole year. It has step-ups that were built into the offers.
So this was what was in the job offer last year when she was hired?
Correct.
So, okay. So at the first of the year when we approved this, now this is correct based on the job offer?
Correct.
Okay.
It's,
Any discussion?
Well, my discussion might be something that we can't discuss because it wasn't included in the changes that were on here. But if at the recent library board meeting, we changed the potential title of the youth librarian to an on-call librarian, should that be updated in there, and can we do that as a part of this motion?
You can, so,
Or would it be a separate motion?
well, or we could just, if there's an agreement to amend the motion, you can just build that, that in there as well. And then
Okay.
we can make that change. And
I agree to amend my motion to include the youth librarian title to
On-call librarian or substitute librarian?
sub-
What would you rather have, on-call or substitute?
substitute, what is it?
on-call probably.
Library assistant.
On-call substitute library assistant?
It can have on-call or substitute, it does not matter.
Okay.
On-call substitute
one or the other.
library assistant?
One or the other, either on-call or substitute.
She said you can either be on-call or substitute.
Which one do you prefer?
Which one do you prefer, Nicole? What did you agree to at your meeting?
I think we used it as on-call, if I remember right.
On-call librarian,
Library assistant.
Library assistant.
library assistant. And you agree to amend your second then?
I do.
All right.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 13, discussion and possible action, approval for discontinued use of approval for continued use of dedicated American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA funds for expansion of projects for We Energy's natural gas line additions. Jason, you want to give us an update on this
Town
before?
board had approved this previously. A lot of those monies came back due to subscribers that we had allotted them, so it would be continued use of that same pool of money that was approved by the town board. I don't know how many of those projects they would be able to fund. If this is approved, we would tell them how much we've collected back so far, and they'd be able to roll those projects out. In her presentation, she anticipated as soon as they would do one area, it would be the same as before, that most of the money would be recovered through gas line customers that subscribe to the service. So the town, that's just a rolling fund that we would allot to them like we did the first time around.
So we're not adding any ARPA funds, we're using those that
We're
were
using the
available
funds that were
and dedicated to the project originally.
Originally allocated, not to exceed what was originally allocated.
In that case, that,
Can I just maybe make a recommendation, just so it's consistent with our ARPA reporting, is, if you would, if you are approving this, you would be utilizing the previously obligated ARPA monies,
Right.
for these projects.
And as I had clarified earlier prior to the meeting, the Aspen project from last year ended up costing us $0. The prior project to that along Apache by Fire Station 2, cost ran a little bit over, but we're still within the $17,000 that we had been continually rolling over. So we're able to continue expanding this gas line throughout the town, which the board had agreed to keep doing that. So we're not expending any more money than the original 17,000 we agreed to keep doing, so.
given that explanation, I would like to move, that we accept the, project and use ARPA funds that are available.
I'll second. We have a motion by Supervisor Capel, a second by Chairwoman Jumati, to approve the continued use of dedicated ARPA monies for the expansion of We Energy natural gas line additions. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Discussion only. Visit Rome, Wisconsin, contract extension request considerations.
Did you want me to?
Sure, go
give that
ahead.
Just a lead in, so just
Sure.
a recap over the last couple meetings. We've had Visit Rome present and then answer some questions that you all had for the request of a agreement extension or a successor agreement really for the tourism promotion services. So now that you've really had those kind of presentations and questions answered, I'd be looking for some direction from the town as to what you'd want in an agreement, and I think this item is put on an agenda to allow for that either at this meeting or maybe have a conversation about how that feedback be provided. In other words, since we don't have all of the board here, do we want over the next couple weeks before the next meeting you to forward your thoughts or recommendations and we compile them and then consider everybody's thoughts at the next meeting, or we could discuss them here. But I think at this point, I'm looking for direction from the town on what you want to see in an agreement.
I think I would be willing to send my thoughts to, we can have Nick gather our thoughts and put them in the agreement. I know they were asking for 7 years. I don't know. Then the comment came up at the last presentation that maybe 5 years. So maybe we send our comments, let them come back with a draft, and then we
I
go
think
from
that's a
there.
good idea.
With my only question, do you want me to actually draft based off of those comments? Because, so, I'm not saying they will, but there could be comments that are conflicting, right? Some might come in with a term that's not what everybody comes in with. So what I can do is compile that. We can have that conversation, and then I can rather quickly turn around a draft for the next meeting. This just allows you to see what everybody's
I think we should
feedback.
draft it with 7 years in mind. That's what they're asking for initially. I think that's what they still want. And to me, there's no little difference between 5 years and 7 years.
I disagree. And that's what I'd rather provide my comments as to why I have that thought.
All right, I'll do the same.
Supervisor Minter, did you have any thoughts or?
No, I'm fine with providing comments by email to Attorney Flanagan, and then him compiling the options for each different area for us to consider.
Yes, so what I'll probably do is I'll take comments and I would just ask maybe, can we put a cutoff for comments? I'm not sure what the calendar looks like. Maybe by next Friday?
Sure.
Could I get the comments by, what I'll do is I'll compile all those comments. Everybody's comments will be compiled. I can also try to organize those areas of the current agreement where those comments would relate, just so you can kind of see where those might be referenced or built into a successor agreement, if that would be fair.
Sure.
Not that I'll be proposing language, but just so I can kind of organize those comments, whatever they may be, into areas of the agreement that they might pertain to, and then we can have that as I think a pretty good launch point to talk about a successor agreement.
Right.
Okay.
Just so I have some clarity, Bill, could you elaborate as to why 5 years instead of 7 years?
I don't like locking anything in on a municipal basis into that long a contract, especially when there's gonna be changes on the board. That's one of my reasons, but I have others. And the reason for the duration that I'm thinking of for the contract is, when I asked the question of why we would look at extending it, it was because they need to do a 5-year contract with the realty company in order to do the space. And that's really the driving factor,
Right.
one of the driving factors, probably the most important.
I just, as
I want them to be able to do that, but I'm not so sure that I wanna go beyond that.
I view it, I think just at the end of 5 years, there really, chances are there's not gonna be anything different unless there's some state legislation that changes that would change our posture.
And that's fine, then at that point in time, you extend it again. I just don't like going out that long without having, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know, maybe you do, Bob, but I don't have a crystal ball. 7 years is a long time out for a municipality to extend a contract.
You know that,
And there's a lot of things going on in this town. A lot of
view it-
changes are transpiring in this town.
I view it as a continuing
lock
partnership, so
somebody
I don't really see an issue with
Okay,
that.
I'm just sharing my thoughts. You asked. So,
I think we all send our opinions to Nick
Compile
and let
our
him
thoughts.
compile the thoughts and,
have them, Nick, by January 26th?
What about the other side? Do you want Visit Rome to submit anything they would want changed to Nick as well, so we know what their thoughts are?
oh, this
By
is
the
our
next
agreement
meeting
with
as well.
them, so, I mean, this
Yeah.
is what we want,
This is
so,
our contract.
yeah, this is our agreement with them, so.
No, I think if they have some things that they want to have
If
included
there's
in the
something that they
contract,
would
they
want
ought
to
to,
see changed,
make
I
'em
think
know.
it's fair for them to let us know.
otherwise
Yes,
it's just
yeah,
going to
I-
extend it.
Sure,
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Can I make a comment?
sure.
So, yeah, I just wanna make sure our objectives are kind of aligned with what the town's expectations are. I mean, we've moved into some different realms since this contract was developed, especially things like workforce development. So I just wanna make sure that as we're moving into these different realms, that is maybe reflected in the current agreement. And then I would also
Okay.
ask if,
Okay.
you know, if you're thinking about a term, could we also think about the lead time to renew that term? I mean, could we say that 2 years prior to the end of the term is when we are going to discuss,
Similar to what
the
you're doing
extension.
now.
Yep. Instead of us
Yeah.
coming to you whenever we think it should be extended, could that be more structured?
So, precisely the kind of feedback I'm looking for,
Yeah,
right?
I
So-
understand I understand what she's saying,
So
yeah.
that is the kind of feedback
Yep.
I'm looking for from you all, so I can compile, identify the areas of the agreement where those might be reflected, and then that list will go to all of you as we discuss
And it probably depends on what term we actually wind up choosing. I'm only one voice, I'm not the whole board, so. But yes, there should be a time at which it reflects in there that it gets looked at for extension. That's what you're asking for. So that you don't have to get provided, it's already provided. Got it.
I think it would be helpful.
And
to
I
know-
just want, I'm sorry, Dan, I just want to make one more comment. I really appreciated the presentation you did last time, and I think you're on the right track. I don't think, I'm not against anything that you're up to right now with maybe one question mark, but I like the workforce development aspect, and I think we want to partner on that and try and make that progress and bring in workers into the area. So I think you're on the right track.
There's other things, I mean, there's no mention of events in here, and we have really supported and tried to upgrade a lot of the events in the town. So there's just some misalignment in what's
Yes.
stated in this contract versus what we're actually doing.
Well, especially if we want you programming the band show.
Right,
Exactly.
So there's some things that are missing.
I think we've said that we want this, but I'll just reiterate that I think we do want this, to have Visit Rome provide some suggestions in certain areas of this, particularly related to the point number 2, where it's the responsibilities and duties of Visit Rome, Wisconsin. I mean, I know there's the line, and any other, but not limited to, that's, makes it pretty broad, but if there are things that have developed in these last 5 years that this contract's been in place, probably not a bad idea, assuming if they're going to continue going forward, probably not a bad idea to spell them out specifically. But, so I would ask that Visit Rome be also allowed to provide
Sure.
commentary for us to consider when crafting this.
That makes sense, and that lends itself to the 7 years. I mean, to add 7 years when we're still at the 3-year mark, I mean, or 2-year mark, wherever, I forgot where we're at, but that's a long time. So optics can change, needs can change, a vision can change, people change, the town change, the money changes. There's a lot of money, there's a lot of time, and all those things can evolve. So that can all change in that period of time. So this document would need to change again. So are we limiting ourselves by signing up for another 9 years and not taking another peek at it, you know? And then you're tying the board's hands. Not that that length of commitment to one another wouldn't be a good thing. We're not saying that, but having so many, you know, having so many years committed to each other and saying, well, we'll take a look at this again in 5 years. It's just like everything else. A comp plan, a court plan.
Yep.
You gotta reevaluate every so many years because everything is changing so quickly these days. The money, the commitments, the needs, the visions, the optics, everything. So that's the only thing. And then the other thing that comes up is exclusivity. Do you broaden out? Do we look beyond our own borders? Is there a need elsewhere? Is there somebody else that wants to join us? Those are those things we look at. Or do we have more members on your board? Do you have members on our? Those are things, those gives us other opportunities to explore, so. That's the question, you know, Bob's, well, what's wrong with 7 years? There's nothing wrong with it, but there's more opportunities to partner with. And when you bring up things like development in the Rome Town Center, or like you even said, the events, well, you could talk about that at another meeting, but let's make that commitment so you know what the expectation is, and we understand what our expectations of each other are and what the needs are. So it's understood and not just spoken. So.
And I get that, and I just want you guys to understand, as I'm from the business world.
Right.
I mean, to operate without a 5-year plan
Right.
is really just hard for
Yes.
me as a manager.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just hard to plan things when you don't know for sure what things are going to look like in 2 years is very, you know, that
Right.
comes very quickly.
Yes, it does. So understand 5 years. I can get that. So, all right. Well, thank you for understanding as well.
And I think it's important to recognize that shorter-term agreements will tie our hands. And when you look around the state, the far greater average for these lengths of terms is closer to 10 than it is to 5. And a far bigger proportion of that is because of the investiture when you get to a life cycle of ours. I'm not talking about smaller organizations of where we began, but I'm talking about the likes of Green Bay, Wisconsin Dells, Milwaukee, Madison, etc. We have a lot of tourists coming here, and we have a big job and a big task. And if we want to continue that task and prepare this community for the future, we need to be able to prepare and plan beyond 5 years. And so if our hands are tied, our ability to equip this community as we've been tasked with will be limited. We're a very nimble organization, and we're able to move and address those alignments. And Nick, maybe there is some sort of review process for scope that can be incorporated on a biannual basis as a precondition to it that makes you more comfortable with the length of term. We're not opposed to re-evaluating the scope, something we continue to do on a daily basis. But if we can agree that the funding source, which is kind of the crux of how we function, is more solidified, but the scope and prioritization is something that can be reevaluated on a more frequent basis, that makes sense in my mind.
I think
Well-
that's a good idea, because as things change, even during a 5-year period, we might want to be able to sit down every 2 years and kind of say, hey, this is a continuing contract for the X more years, but in the meantime, these are things that are important to us and we both feel ought to be changed or added to the contract.
Well, Visit Lake Geneva just signed theirs for 5. So, I mean, you know, this isn't, I understand where you're coming from, but it is still the town of Rome, and I understand what you're saying. We're not Green Bay I mean, I respect what you're saying, Will, but there's a lot of money there yet, and there's a lot of growth yet to come, and I mean, you're anticipating 16% to 20% growth over the next 5 years. That's another $100 and some odd $1,000 for the next 5 years, and there's a lot that can be done with that. So, I mean, that's a lot of money. So, I mean, we partner on that and we move forward. And I mean, we had another how many close to $1 million this last year in room tax. So, I mean, the partnership is what's really important to move it forward, and I appreciate what you're saying. So that's why the conversation's important, but 10 years is a long time and things change, so. But thank you, appreciate the input, and I think we'll come up with some good guidelines for going forward. All right, so I think we all got our homework to do, and you guys send that to us and we can get it to Nick, so. Or you want them to send, or how do you want,
Whatever works best for them.
or how about you send it to,
our administrator.
yeah, send it to Jason and then he'll get it to Nick for you. Thank you. Anybody else, any other comments? Anybody? All right, great. Thank you, everybody, for your input. All right, we'll move on then. All right, so did we need to call Matt, or we're gonna see if we have questions first and then have to get Matt on the line? Was that for the, we'll get there first and see. All right, number 15, discussion and possible action. Approval of declaration of condominium documents for Mammoth Condominiums for a mortgage holder on the property.
Okay, so I can tee it up, and then
Okay.
just know that if we do have any other specific questions, that we do have Matt Carlson on the phone, that we can get him in and loop.
I didn't know if you wanted to start dialing and get him, okay.
So just a general overview in your packets, I believe, is the background information here. Related both to numbers 15 and 16, I'm just going to give you the overview on both of those right away, and then certainly happy to answer questions as well. So back in 2022, you may recall, those that were on the board, that we were approached by Sand Valley, or Wisconsin Dunes LLC, to approve condominium documents for what they called Mammoth Condominiums. Shortly thereafter, we also received a request for release of mortgage on one of the units, that being Unit 2, to release that. That was pending a sale that they had lined up or anticipated lining up. That sale didn't go through, and they probably rightfully did not record the condominium documents either at that time, because they weren't going to record anything or release a mortgage that didn't have a sale go through. So what is being asked of us now is a slight revision, as they've outlined here, to the condominium documents, and that's why the condominium document piece is on there for number 15. What they are adjusting is not the footprint of the overall condominium. The condominium is still 3 units as it was proposed back in 2022. Unit 1 is not changing. That is also the same as 2022. Units 2 and 3 are slightly changing. The footprint of the 2 units combined isn't changing, but the dimensions between Unit 2 and 3 have adjusted slightly. Because in condominium law, if they would have recorded the condominium documents, they would have had to do what's an addendum or an amendment to the condominium documents. Because that would have been the case had they recorded it, we felt it prudent to bring this back and have you all review that and approve it as number 15. And then for number 16, similar to what we saw the last time, they do have potential sales lined up for units 2 and 3. So this is a request then to release the mortgage for units 2 and 3 after, so 15 is the condominium documents, 16 is units 2 and 3. Previously, you had, or the town had approved release of unit 2. Again, we are adjusting dimensionally some of unit 2 and 3, and so those are back here for that reason as well. again, if there's any questions that relate to what exactly is adjusting between unit 2 and 3, we do have their representative that is happy to answer those questions. But that's kind of the background and lead into why these two items are here before you today.
So then I'll move that we approve the declaration of condominium documents for Mammoth Condominiums for a mortgage holder on the property.
I'll second his motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Bauerheit, second by Supervisor Capel, for the approval of declaration of condominium documents for Mammoth Condominiums for a mortgage holder on the property. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Discussion and possible action. Request by Wisconsin Dunes LLC for the exclusion of units 2 and 3 Mammoth Condominium, presently a part of parcel number 030-00319-0015 from mortgage granted to the Town of Rome pursuant to a development agreement among the Town of Rome, Wisconsin Dunes LLC and Sand Valley LLC, dated as of August 10th, 2016. You just need a motion to.
My assumption is that there is really no negative
Doesn't change anything.
proceeding on the town if we grant this.
Well, I will just note that when the town was asked last in 2022 to release this, I believe the town board had tabled it one meeting to get some additional information regarding financial impact of release, if I recall, and some of you that were on the board may recall that as well. And so the town board did do that back in 2022 when they considered the release of Unit 2 that came in. I believe that was maybe over 2 meetings before they did approve the release of Unit 2.
Did we not get an
I'm looking at
opinion?
the development since that period in time.
I'm sorry.
I said, I think, I'm looking at the amount of development since that period of time and the amount of income that has come through, and I think it offsets anything that we would lose in granting this.
Was it not the opinion of our advisor from Ellers also? That it's reinvesting basically in the facility, so we're not losing, it's a reinvestment in the property, and then we're getting, it's helping to boost the value of the property when we do this.
Yeah, and what I'm specifically referencing when I answered the question the way I did was in our agreement, we have certain criteria that we look to. And I know when this came up in 2022, the town board did look to get those kind of assurances before releasing the mortgage on particularly Unit 2. And so I know that did get done, and I believe what the chairwoman is referencing was a report that came from that.
And Greg Johnson, who has been with the town for over 17 years, is still our advisor, and he was the one that had said that it would not be hurting us financially to release that property. That was a reinvestment in the facility. I'll move that we approve the request by Wisconsin Dunes LLC for the exclusion of Units 2 and Unit 3 Mammoth Condominium, presently a part of parcel number 030-00319-0015, from mortgage granted to the Town of Rome pursuant to the development agreement among the Town of Rome, Wisconsin Dunes LLC, and Sand Valley LLC, dated as of August 10th, 2016.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion by Chairwoman Giamatti, second by Supervisor Bauerheit, for the request by Wisconsin Dunes LLC for the exclusion of Units 2 and 3 Mammoth Condominium, presently a part of the parcel number 030-00319-0015, from the mortgage granted. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Discussion and possible action, explore the feasibility of multiple town-wide dead timber and brush collections. Jason?
This was put on the agenda. We had public comment requesting more dead brush pickups and more collections throughout the town with the dead brush ordinance and Firewise. Wanted to get board's input before we have Brad put the time and effort into doing that. He said the collections are quite intensive in man hours to do the whole town, so just wanted board direction before we had him move forward with anything, if that's something that's on the table, or if we're happy with the amount of collections that are currently being done.
Yeah, I believe that it takes probably a crew of 4 people from Brad's group to do the collection over a 2-week period at least, depending on how much is out there.
Yeah, you said
But it's
closer to a month.
it adds up to a considerable amount of money for the town.
Yes.
And that doesn't include Lake Arrowhead, cause Lake Arrowhead does
Right.
their own.
I guess the question I had for Brad was, what does that impact? What else are we impacting by adding collections of brush? What else are we not doing?
We're probably
we're
not
doing-
cutting grass,
Road
shoulders,
maintenance, maybe a mastic application to the roads and things like that.
And
shouldering.
you're guessing, I guess I would
Well, we're
need to hear
guessing,
from the
but we
Public
can,
Works Director what we would
we're
do
not
with
too
that.
far off, cause
You're
we
probably
know.
right, but
Yeah.
I mean, the question would be for him, if we decide to do 2 weeks or 4 weeks, what's the impact? I'm not suggesting we do that. I thought if this was gonna go forward, should have come up at budget time, not after the budget was already settled.
I could see.
And
the
that's, with all due respect to Mr. Lepecki, I understand what his concern is, but if we were gonna do this, we should have done it during the budget.
I could see possibly doing it and adding in one more pickup a year, like in the spring and in the fall. But the problem with the spring is don't we have a limit when we can cut? Like April 1st, you have to have stuff done. Do you remember, Bob? Don't we have to
Yeah,
have
I
stuff
think it
we
runs
can't
through,
cut
the
before?
DNR revised their schedule for cutting oak.
is it?
I believe it goes through July 1st, somewhere around there.
But you
After,
can't cut,
before that, you can't cut, yeah.
what is it, April 1st?
April 1st, I believe, to July 1st.
See, so you
something.
can't even cut, right?
That's oak only, though. We're not talking about oak necessarily.
Oh, okay, so we could like have a spring pickup of stuff that falls down in the winter time, so if we did budget next year for a spring pickup after the winter, I mean, we could look at it at budget time, but this year now,
Well, that's what, I'm thinking it should be a budget item,
yeah.
and discuss it at that point in time, and.
I think too, I mean, a resident can take over fallen timber to the transfer site anytime they want and dispose of it that way. I know it's more convenient to be able to have curbside pickup, but there is an expense involved.
Were we looking at land that was not owned, public land? When he was talking to us? I don't remember. I was trying to get a handle on what I knew he wanted more pickup, but I wasn't sure if it was for residential or if it was for the town to do something on town land. So, there's a lot of questions that I have relative to this that I think it would behoove to look at a little more in depth as to what's the scope of the problem. What are we trying to solve?
Yeah,
Because I thought the Firewise program took more steps.
They have,
go
and
forward
I hope
and
we
do
can
a better
continue
job.
with the community service officer surveying all these locations and providing feedback to the lot owners that they're in violation, perhaps issuing tickets if it comes to that. That has gone a long way to helping us solve this problem, but we still need to talk about someday, how do you address all the green space?
Then that should be what we ask the Public Works Director to come up with a plan. How do we address the green space?
Well, he doesn't own it. You know, we own a certain amount of green space for the town, but it's very
Well, that's
small
what
in comparison to
That's what
what
I'm asking is, what is the scope of this problem? I don't
And
even
Lake
understand.
Camelot has approximately 650 acres of green space. So there's a lot of area
And
there.
it's not owned by anyone.
It's owned in part by everybody who owns that beach club. So there could be 35, 40 members.
Lake
So this is
Arrowhead has a lot
this is
too.
not, is this a town issue or is this a Camelot issue?
Yeah, and it's
That's a
Lake-
Camelot issue, yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's a town issue and then it's a wildfire hazard.
Well,
Okay,
but Lake Arrowhead has the same problem. Sherwood has the same problem. So I mean, it's really an association problem.
well, it's partially, you know,
Partially an
at least
association.
partially an
And so
association
it's like a town having to work with the associations and ramping up that solution. But Maybe Jason, could you speak to on just how you did kind of make a push with the officers last fall too, to get some code enforcement done too? So I mean,
We visited the town and the letters have gone out, to help clean it up.
I know there was a
This is
real,
kind of a separate issue, just dealing
Oh.
with the collections of it, that was.
I know, but-
I wanted this on here just because of the public comment that was made, that
I
more
know.
collections were wanted, so we have some direction for staff, and I think it would be labor intensive. We have 100 and some miles of roads here, and they're gonna have to drive all of it to see if people put brush out. If you do another collection, it's not like they tried it with people calling in here to say, hey, I put brush out, that did not work, because some people just didn't call in, and then
Right.
months later, brush was still out
still
in the
laying
right
out
of
there, and
way.
I could see that being a problem, piles laying out there, and then it misses the pickup, and then it lays there and lays there, and
But I just wanted an answer for the public comment that, from the board direction on where we're gonna go with it, and it sounds like next budget cycle, we will
explore it.
talk about it then.
Yeah, I would be in agreement with that.
I think you need to fund it if you're gonna do it,
Yeah, we
And
don't
have a good
the-
plan.
and,
don't have the
and,
funds.
and find out,
Yeah, I
well, make
think
a
if I
decision
recall
on
right,
what
it
your
was
impact.
$45,000-$50,000 for the
Yeah,
one pickup, yeah.
And then you can decide whether or not you wanna go for a contract, so you don't impact the public works department. I mean, there's other ways of doing it, not necessarily doing it with our own workforce.
right.
So you have to find out what the ramifications of it are.
Because you're right, we affect all the other work they need to get done in the meantime if we do it more than once or twice, or 3 times. Okay,
So it needs more.
so you have your answer for now, and we'll look at it
We
at
need
budget
more
time.
information.
Yeah, we need more information, so, okay. Thank you. All right. Building, discussion and possible action, building zoning department services update and proposal. Jason,
In your packets, we've spoke with Dan. Just shut down on me. The hybrid plan with Ann doing the zoning. If you look at the statement from January in there, we're well exceeding what was budgeted for this service. It was anticipated to cost $1,250 bi-weekly. We're over the $4,000 mark, so I needed to bring that to the board's attention at the rate of expenditure. We're quickly gonna go through the funds that were budgeted for the contracted position. Dan has some other ideas how to work that and is present to explain some of the hours that are on the sheet here.
you wanna come up, Dan? Did you have some handouts or anything, or did you wanna? Oh, did you wanna, Oh, okay, however you wanna give your information then, did you wanna talk to us first and, okay.
What are you looking for right now? I guess I'm at a loss, sorry.
Jason, how did you want him to proceed?
Well, we budgeted the rate that Jamie included in the budget was for about 8.9 hours a week. It was for the office hours of 8 to 10:30, I believe, 3 days a week. And Dan has told me that would not work out under our current arrangement, so I don't know what comments you'd have for them as to why it's not working.
Okay. What's happening is, when this was first put together and presented to you, Jamie asked me how much time I'd need to do simple zoning, building related only. She never took into the value of what was gonna happen with anything else when she, left. To which I just took on to myself to take care of and run a department, cause there was nobody else to do it. So, in the charts that I have here, I wanna show you later, you'll see the progression of hours based on the time that she was here and the time that she left. And hours are needed, between training and rebuilding, repairing the department, and just getting everything back online and getting Taylor where she needs to be to manage this all in itself. It's not something that can be done in 3 hours, 3 days a week. It's just impossible, because that's specific to just the minor building zoning, that's it. That had nothing to do with complaints, that had nothing to do with any kind of follow-through with Gateway, RTC districts, putting together for meetings, none of that stuff was part of that. So at the rate we're going, something's gotta change some way or another. Just financially, at the rate that was contracted, was never designed around this much work. So it's something we would have to, go in session and discuss, see what options we got.
Okay. So Jason, we have budgeted, what did you have listed here?
I believe it was 32,500, and at the rate of expenditures over the last month, we would be looking at 108,000 if it continued for the whole year. So obviously, when we had a zoning administrator, the costs were around 52,000, I think, when she left. So something has to be done to correct this problem.
So we have it in your agreement that it would be minor zoning as it applies to building.
Correct.
Okay. And we have Taylor taking on most of the zonings, so, okay.
She's in training for it, yeah, but it's nothing that's gonna happen overnight. It takes a lot to learn. She's doing a great job, don't say that much, but there's a lot going on there.
Okay. So next step then, Jason, we wanna,
How would you see this bill tapering off with her training?
Again, I would put together the better part of 2 to 3 years to be completely up to speed, to be able to answer anything as far as getting the office in order and getting her in a position that we'd want her to be in, to be able to run the office in its entirety at any given minute. If there was ever issues that people couldn't show up, she could easily face into that position. I'm saying what we need right now, the hours that we're building right now, is just all repair. I believe we're getting on a relatively even keel now, and there too is gonna be the matter of what do we wanna address in the town? I mean, what's gonna be important now as far as, like, right now, we're getting inundated with the camper issues that are not taking off a lots, that's a big one. So, we're looking at a lot of that kind of stuff. Do we wanna do, anything with the gateway as far as signage issues that are throughout? These all take process, this isn't a matter of just whipping a letter out. There's a lot of procedure that goes with it, so it's done correctly. Pretty much the entire town, whatever the board's, concerns are that needs to be addressed out of the zoning department, that's still up in the air.
okay.
So some of the stuff that I've looked at in this department, I mean, Dan is working on stuff that happened in 2022. There's CSMs that weren't touched in there since 2022 as far as filing them away. There's other work that's lagged behind. The county just recently sent an email on a land joining issue, correct, Dan? Joining two lots together. A permit was issued by the town of Rome for zoning. The county permit wasn't even issued because the land hadn't been joined together yet at the time.
Correct, yeah, he owned both properties, but they were individual properties. And somehow a permit was issued out for it prior to getting the final CSM showing the lots combined from the county. They were holding it up, I believe it had to do with some nameage on ownership. But that has just first been issued out to us. And honestly, the building's up through insulation at this point. It was just, again, oversights that, we gotta work on them CSMs, that's an issue. But again, this all takes time. A lot of these that have been piling up in there are issued out CSM numbers and stuff. There's just been no follow through. And again, these are things Taylor will be doing in time once she gets her day organized between all the things that are gonna be required of her. And she learns how to allot time for each thing. This will be something she'll just do on a, say, weekly, monthly basis, just go through GIS and, you know, confirm what we have sitting here waiting. Has it been issued? You know, that we can get the numbers, get them put away and put that stuff to bed. But right now, it's just sitting piles and folders that nobody knows what to do with. And quite frankly, they're getting overwhelming that nobody even wants to look at them, and I feel we should be addressing them to clean them up.
But they have been sitting there for quite some time already, prior to both of you.
Yeah, this is all pre-us, yeah. The same with camper licensing, we have a stack of those things that just the design, there just needs to be critiquing and design, but we have a stack of people that paid for camping permits that I don't honestly know if they got them or not, but they certainly don't have any sanitary or water on the lots. You know, I got
They've
one,
been sitting there for how long?
I didn't go to dates on that, but that pile's been sitting there for a while too.
Prior to both of you?
Yeah, and so we're doing redesigning and getting put into proper places where it never was before, that from our end, and Taylor's end, we can redline it, so when they do apply for their camping permit the following year, they're red flagged and won't be getting a permit. The same with complaints. If they haven't cleaned up their complaints and had correction there, we can redline them there and stop them from getting their next camper permit until everything's been corrected. It's something that just hasn't been done because there's, maybe not enough hands in the mix on some of those matters.
Again, it's sitting before the town board because quite frankly, I'm not gonna continue to approve $4,185 invoices when only 1,200's budgeted. That's a board decision. It exceeds my scope for approval, so something has to be done. Either the board has to authorize them to continue, cut down what you want him doing temporarily. The complaints and stuff that were mentioned, I believe 8 new zoning permits came in the month of December, so if you say just handle new permits that come in,
I think we need to take a look at it and get a breakdown of what's actually, I think we need a breakdown of what's actually transpiring and what we're looking at and maybe what we're searching out and get a real breakdown of what you're actually working on. And Taylor seems to really be surprising us all and coming along and doing some really outstanding work. So I mean, if we go back to what was in the original agreement and budgeted for, and maybe we could get a breakdown of the actual work like that's been requested and look at those numbers and see. And I think, I mean, she's picked up a lot of the stuff for the plan commission. She's going over a lot of the things that we anticipated and more. So maybe we could get down to the basics and just really get more detailed on what it is that, if we're going out and seeking things versus what's really laying there that needs to be, enforced.
And again, that's why I say it as a board decision on what they consider important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we gotta take a look at that and get a real breakdown.
Yeah, if the board has
Because
a
if we're
directive
exceeding it
says
by that much
wanna
and we
go
only had
after-
9 zoning permits,
There's
that's,
obviously a backlog, and there's obviously a backlog of work that needs to be done, and we need to know the scope of that so we can authorize payment to
but
get
it
that
seems
done.
like it took a jump, though, it took a real jump, so that it's going back far beyond the
I
last
understand that.
year.
I understand what you're saying. It's,
Isn't what we're saying that we should have hired a full-time zoning and
No, because
building
it's
administrator instead of an assistant?
No, it's going far beyond that. It's going far past when Emily was here.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's-
I'm
it's-
doing 3/4 of what Jamie was doing.
No, that's not what he's, no, it's stuff, CSMs were
Should have
laying,
been followed up on at the time that
When-
they were filed had not been done. So we have a backlog.
no, yeah, no, Nick, did you have, I heard you,
Well, I would agree with the comment that you made. I don't know that you're at a point where you really know what
we don't
Well,
have a,
you know,
I don't have
what
a
exactly
solution
you're
here.
dealing with unless you get a breakdown of what exactly is being performed, you know.
I think we're going overboard on enforcement. That is, it sounds more to me like it's enforcement. We're finding things when there's building inspections going on, and it's going overboard on enforcement that's been laying there for a while. Versus, and other things that, quite frankly, Taylor's doing. I don't know, but we need a breakdown.
I think the breakdown, the other piece that the breakdown assists with is, we're hearing, I think from a number of people, the idea that, your admin support specialist will be taking on some of these duties. But it's really hard to know exactly what makes up the 2 to 3 year plan unless you have a breakdown to start to put the plan together and train on, if that makes sense. I mean, until you know what's being done, you aren't going to have a real plan to handing off and cross-training. I think you have to have some kind of breakdown so you understand what exactly is being done beyond minor zoning, for example. We know, we're hearing that there's beyond minor zoning, we're seeing that. What exactly that is, I don't know that there's, I mean, a total clarity on to, I know which items are maybe going to be cross-trained, handed off to Taylor. I mean, I know the easy ones to answer for Taylor. That's plan commission, short-term rentals. I mean, those things she's picking up on and doing right now. But the bigger things, I couldn't begin to tell you because I don't know what all makes up that list.
And he's far exceeding the numbers that we had counter offered for Emily to stay. So there's something that's not going according to what Jamie had offered in this contract right here. So something's amiss, so we need to find out what that is, correct?
Correct. So
It's all highlighted
how far
here,
can
the
this be
budgeted
broke
numbers
down?
are there, so it doesn't make sense, so we need to have a breakdown, Dan.
And
Please
what-
provide
what
us a
would that-
breakdown,
What would that
because
breakdown curtail?
what you're
Because
doing for zoning,
You're asking
specifically
us-
I am
zoning
all
for the
over the
hours.
board. I'm doing from everything from prepping for a campground to
But you
cross-training
shouldn't be
with her.
doing, that should be, well,
This is what I'm saying is I'm doing all these, I just got this all dumped on my shoulders and said, make a department run. That's where I was
no, we
left.
didn't ask you to make the, okay.
That's where the confusion is that I need clarity on, because that's what Dan and I have talked about, that he has direction to run the department. I wasn't here when this stuff happened. I got brought in here in mid-November after Dan was already doing stuff, so I don't know what was said between the previous administrator and Dan or how this whole picture was supposed to work. What I can say is clearly it's not working by how much
Dollars.
money's being expended.
Dollars and cents.
Right here, it's highlighted in the agreement, in the yellow, that's what we signed, and the amount that was budgeted.
And I went over that with Dan and he said,
I
I'm
know, you've
fine
gone
just
over it
doing
and-
that stuff, but who's gonna do the rest of the stuff that
That's-
falls down here?
But that's not his concern, and we've got that worked out with Taylor.
So is it the board direction then to just have him do what's in the contract? That's what I'm looking for from the board, and then I can deal with it. If problems arise, I'll have to report back to you guys, but I don't wanna make that decision and then come here 2 weeks from now and people are complaining that their zoning permit didn't get processed, or
It
we
says
got a
right
building
in
built in the
here,
business park that doesn't follow our zoning code, et cetera,
minor
et
zoning,
cetera.
minor zoning, so,
Related to building.
yes,
I'm
Nick.
saying that you don't have a breakdown of what it is beyond minor zoning.
That's
to-
going on
To know what's going to fall,
between the cracks.
you know,
Not being done.
if you just
Yep.
take a beeline to the minor zoning piece and say that all the other stuff has to fall, you don't know what all the other stuff is until you get an itemized breakdown. You have to have an itemized breakdown.
So are you able to produce the itemized breakdown, I guess is the
I
question.
guess I don't know how to because, perfect example is I just simply got an email from somebody asking about signage, which falls into 3 different districts. So this is where I
That
pull
would go
her,
to Taylor,
she doesn't even know the districts yet. This is what I'm saying is
that
she's not aware
goes
of.
to Taylor,
It will, yeah, eventually.
it goes to Taylor.
Okay, then it will.
If we're putting this into what an itemized piece looks like, if that email's coming in and it's a question about signage in a district, right? Just list that stuff out. I mean,
Right.
and you can make the determination as a board if that's going to go to Taylor at some point and how that's going to be. Again, you don't know what it is.
Until he
You
lists
don't
it.
know, right? I mean, you don't know until you get that breakdown, and then you can start to identify what it is that's going beyond minor zoning and who's going to handle it. Respectfully, that's the only comment I would make there is before you start saying lop off everything that isn't minor zoning, you need to know what it is that is major
Correct.
zoning
You're
that's being
correct.
done, is my only thought to it.
And we have asked for that numerous times. So can you provide us a list, please?
Of what's considered,
What you've been doing?
I will try to put something together, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's
Do we
really,
think-
we're asking you what your workload is, Dan. I think that's exactly what we're asking. What's your workload? What are you doing? Okay. And we're not saying you're not doing what you should be doing, we're just asking what you're doing
Mhm.
in order to understand how to fix it.
Okay, I will see how I can break it down.
Right, and maybe in the agreement when it was placed in there and we agreed to this and it said minor zoning as it impacted building, it wasn't clear enough when it was in this agreement that was prepared. So we need you to write down, that's why we need a clear list. That's why we've continually asked you for that. So that's why we're here tonight.
Yeah. I don't know how else to go about it. And I understand the chief's concern, so.
Yeah, I do too. And that's why we've continually asked for clarification, so that's why we had to bring it tonight. So that would be very helpful,
Okay,
cause then either that would stay in your realm or it would go to Taylor, so. So does that help you too then? Or do you need more?
No, it doesn't help
I mean,
Jason
should
at
I
all.
keep approving the bills at the rate that they're coming in at then until the next meeting? Because by the time this board meets again, we will receive another bill. This bill was
No.
just paid on the 14th. So what do you wanna do between now and 2 weeks from now in the zoning department to keep from getting,
Present any future bills to the board.
do you want me to stay within my physical contract? That's a yes or no. Cause if it's back down to 3 hours, 3 days a week, then staying within the numbers isn't gonna be the issue for for a while. But if you're expecting anything beyond that contract, which I have been doing, then yes, that's gonna be an issue.
and I think with that, we need the list of what those extras are, cause you and I have talked like the campground and stuff, I don't know how many hours went into the campground to make an informational statement to the town board. I don't know how many hours that stuff takes, or a zoning permit comes in from start to finish, somebody's gonna build a new home and you go out with the zoning permit to inspect, I don't know what those hours are. I think the board would like to see a breakdown of how many hours are being spent on enforcement. Out of the 47 office hours, how many of them are enforcement issues? We're gonna have to leave some of the stuff from 2022. The other staff didn't get it done.
Right.
And to go backwards and start doing that now at the rates that we're at, that's something Taylor's training could be completed, and Taylor could go back and pick those things up that have sat there since 2022.
The CSMs have been laying there for over a year, correct? The CSMs have been laying there for over a year. Those other some of those things have been laying there for over a year and a half. We don't need to be finding things to occupy our time.
I don't remember any discussion relative to code enforcement whatsoever.
Only like in the Gateway area and the Rome Town Center, those came up primarily at Board and Plan Commission. Those were the biggest concerns because they were continually coming up over and over.
But I don't remember asking anybody to do anything about them.
Well, when Emily was hired, she was hired with the prospect that she would do enforcement of code violations.
And you turn the brush over to her.
And that's back over at, right,
That's what you did, turn the brush over.
which is what turned her off, but that's a conversation for a different day. Anyway, so,
I'm guessing the
Wasn't
camp-
just the brush.
No, like the camping issues that Dan's talking about, I only can assume those campers were likely there last year as well, and it was a low priority enforcement.
God bless
And
you.
Dan has made it a high priority, you know, to get everything in order. Everything's of equal, don't let me speak out of place for you, but you're looking at everything should be in order and it should be running smoothly and all the codes should be being followed, but that's not how previous people in that position had run the department, and I think that explains a lot of our expenditures here. Obviously, we need the breakdown to show that, but
Yeah, I don't think, you've exceeded your contract, there's no question about that, okay? But I don't think you're doing anything wrong. I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to make the fix in.
And we
bring everything
appreciate
up
your
to date.
efforts, and we're grateful for the work you're doing.
And you need to know that. However, for us to try and fix the problem, we need to understand the scope of it. And I can't help you and do that.
Right.
I would if I could, but I can't, because I don't know what the scope is.
And we've always appreciated the work you do for this town, and we know our builders appreciate how you work with them. So your work has always been respected here. We need a breakdown of what you're doing so we can move forward. So please provide that sooner rather than later. So by the end of the week, if you could do that,
I'll try to put it together before the end
by
of the
the
week.
end of the week. And then we
Just-
can make
yeah,
it, and I think we
I've got other
have to.
things going on too. I
Beginning
know,
by,
you know, so
by the
I'll try.
but we've been asking you, Jason and I have both been asking you for that for the past 2 weeks, continually, Dan. So, moving forward, the board needs to make a decision, because we have two really good people in that area right now that are doing a very good job. So, we think if we have this breakdown, we can continue down that path. We need that information from you, because we know we can't continue at these numbers. Okay, so if we can figure that out, please have that to us if you can by the end of the week. But I think we have to look at those hours and where that work is going. We know you're doing a good job, we just need to understand it.
Okay, and I didn't get an answer as far as, do you want me going specifically to contract between now and the next board meeting when this is discussed again?
I think if we can look at cutting the hours that you're doing now, we can't continue with the numbers you've got here before us tonight. This isn't good, because we're gonna run out of money by April. So,
I would recommend this to the town board, unless there's a zoning violation related to building safety or construction safety, that we give Dan a directive to stop enforcement actions as far as campers and zoning that's not related to building. It can wait 2 weeks until
we meet
he gives us
again.
our breakdown as to how much time is being spent on those issues.
I think that's a reasonable suggestion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does the board agree?
Yes. I think,
Do you agree? Okay. I think if you, then that gives you a little bit more time to get us those, if you can have those numbers no later than Monday, that gives you
I
the
would say
weekend?
by Monday would be
All
more
right.
reasonable.
Okay. Someone wanna make a motion to that effect, or do we need a motion, or are we well understood?
I believe Dan
All
has
right.
accepted it, but if you want a motion, I'll make a motion that, we get a breakdown of the tasks that our building inspector has been performing on a regular basis.
Beyond his original agreement for zoning, okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So you'll have those to us by Monday, please. Thank you very much for the discussion. And we'll bring this back then. All right, thank you. All right. The board may go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute, Section 19.85, Sub 1, Sub C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Town administrator administration.
I'll move that we go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute section 19.85, sub 1, sub C.
Second.
We have a motion by Supervisor Capel, a second by Supervisor Minter to go into closed section pursuant to Wisconsin statute section 19.85, sub 1, sub C. Roll call vote, starting on my left, please.
Capel, yes.
Minter, yes.
Jumati, yes.
Barrheit, yes.
Okay. Go into closed session. Gonna leave the microphone.
A reminder, the mics stay live in this room.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, I saw that. These are the ones MSA did up that winter.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, I mean, higher, that's basic, higher different. I can also reach out. Sure. I have more of a connection with Mid-State than Flint.
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah.
What's Craig's last name? What's Craig's last name?
Right,
from
as for
Midstate?
commitment from the town.
What's Craig's last name from Midstate? Do you know?
Starts with a B.
I know, that's what I was thinking, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I can't hear very well.
So Yancy, right, asking for commitment, they can't make a commitment without having a budget item. All comes down to dollars and cents. Unless we try and take it in our own hands.
He's also on the board, when did he was here?
To deal with fire lines.
Part of Wisconsin.
To look into getting a piece of equipment. The board went out, they looked at new equipment, which was, I think she came up with $125,000 cost to come up with a skid loader and a grinder, mulcher.
Mm-hmm.
And that was all new stuff.
Yep.
I've done some, a little bit around.
We'll see you later, buddy.
Reach out to the owner for
Okay,
anywhere
sounds
from $5
good.
to $10,000, mulchers from anywhere from $200 to $2,500.
Yeah.
Way
See it.
Don't worry, the town board half of this.
I've been dealing with them for
Okay.
almost 50 years,
Great.
on and on.
I'm sure he'd love to
Yeah.
hear you and hear sure what happened last time, but
Yeah, well, I mean, even if we could post
I know.
Mid-State things at the library, you know, like, yeah,
I'd be on the Zoom that you have.
that's awesome.
Yep, appreciate it. and
Yeah.
We'll see you.
That would be fine.
Current contract was $100 on the car from somebody.
Yes. Yeah, my best friend backed into it the other day. My buddy.
I thought you were gonna say Wendy.
No. No, my actual best friend's
Like your real, it wasn't a sarcastic, my
No,
best friend,
he
it
is
was
my
my
best
best friend.
Yeah, so we were getting out of the fishery and putting away all our stuff at the Gerber shed. My
No,
vehicle's
sorry.
like, this is like, it's snowing out. His girlfriend calls him on the phone as he's backing up and it's not bad, but he felt terrible. Bumper went in and then it was plastic and then it popped right back out. I haven't yet. It's not bad at all. Bob looked at it. Bob looked at it and he couldn't even find it. He said, we really had to look for it, so. But there's some cracks like in the plastic, so he's like, no, we're gonna get them replaced. It's a plastic bumper. It went like in.
And then it
It must have cracked because of the cold and then right back out. I'm like, can't they just put something over the cracks to keep them from, you know?
nail
I'm like-
polish, clear nail polish, that's my answer to everything.
I'm like, my light didn't break, his light on his truck broke, and I don't know why, cause his is up so much higher.
but the light didn't break, so
I mean,
nothing.
it could have just been the cold though too, that just added the extra.
Well, we could hear crunch, but yeah, I've learned over the years not to get upset about stuff like that.
No, I always say, I don't care what the outside of my car looks like, as long as it drives, it's not exposed to extra rust, and, yeah.
Well, I
it
just got rid of my
works,
rust
so.
bucket, well, it's still sitting in my driveway, but it was so nice to, go up to them, and this is why you can't have nice things.
That's what I said, I'm like, I'll park next to the cart corrals at the grocery store, because you know what, if there's
Yeah.
a scratch on my car, woo, it's a
Yeah.
car,
Yeah.
at least not my face.
Well, I know, I went, oh, cause it was like a shock, but
Yeah.
then I was like,
That's fine.
getting that's not gonna change it.
Fun story for you. So last night I had to drop some stuff off, and in the deposit box, and this is the first time I've ever been in the town when like no one was here.
Yeah.
Like no one was there. No one. Like all the lights were off. It wasn't even. It was like 6. And so yes, I was kind of surprised. But not even 5:30. It's 9:30. So anyway, I like tap myself in, and I'm like, oh, it's very dark back here.
Oh, you came in here.
Yeah, 'cause I had to put
Oh,
stuff in the
You could come
money
in that
box.
back door.
Well, that wouldn't have mattered anyway.
There's a light switch right inside
Well,
the door.
I'm feeling the walls.
Oh my
I can't see,
goodness.
and I forgot my phone in my car, so I didn't have like the flashlight on it. Well,
Yeah.
I thought I forgot my phone in my car, I should say. So I'm like doing like
my goodness.
dances and feeling for the money box with the slot in
Yeah.
it, and then my eyes started to adjust a tiny bit because like the emergency light
Yeah.
from that like slowly was whatever. So then I realized I do have my phone with me after I have already navigated myself in the dark. I turned it on. I had literally looked for the light switch right past
Oh,
where
where
the
it
light
was.
switch was on the wall, and I
Oh.
was so mad at myself.
It's so much quicker. You can use your same thing.
Fobby fob.
Come to the back door. You can pull up right next to it,
Uh,
and then there's a light switch right inside the door.
That's good to know, because I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, I hope somebody
Anytime you come, you can
got to
come through that.
see this somewhere, because that
Oh,
was
yeah.
probably really entertaining.
Well, I don't know if anyone saw it, but we could probably go back and watch it.
Although it's dark, so I don't know if you really did see anything.
I know it's weird because I'm here the last person here a lot of evenings, and it's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy. But I know I've figured out the light switches so I can leave just this portion on until I get to the back door.
Well, and then I was feeling for one on this wall, and I ran into the fire extinguisher, and I was like, you know what? Okay, just gonna. I know there's a money box on the wall somewhere, and I know that Wendy has 2 file folder things, and one is for timesheets, and the other one is for not timesheets. So, yep. But that was my excitement, and I was like, oh,
Goodness.
because then my thought was, is there an alarm system? Oh God, I hope not.
Oh.
That'd be funny.
No, there's not. I don't think no.
We have one at the library.
See, I never set one, but we got the cameras, we got all the locks.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Okay.
So it's been a long day. Have a good night.
You too.
We'll see you soon. Hey, Nicole. Can I get the name of that class? Your Mardi Gras thing is not on the website yet that I can see, is it?
No, because Friends of the Library are planning it, and they have their final planning meeting Thursday.
So Friends of the Library are planning a Mardi Gras,
It's called Chocolate Celebration. It just happens to be on Fat Tuesday.
a
so it
chocolate
worked out.
celebration.
Yes.
Okay, I'll just put that on
Okay.
there. keep, and I was telling to keep checking the
Maybe a
website.
chocolate carving competition.
Ooh, you are my best friend.
I can't wait.
7:35 we came out, huh?
Oh, gosh. Thanks for saying that.
Yeah.
Well, okay, return, all my minutes done already. Alright. Right, the board, well, first we gotta come back with
She'll make the motion.
I've got the information here. Alright.
Let's wait till we,
So I move that we return to open session per Wisconsin State Statute 19.85 sub 2.
Second?
we have a motion by Supervisor Bauerheit, second by Supervisor Minter to return into open session authorized by Wisconsin State Stat Section 19.85 sub 2. Roll call vote starting on my left, please.
Capel, yes.
Minter, yes.
Jumati, yes.
Bauerheit, yes.
Okay. All right, and from that closed session, I will move that we retain Public Administration Associates LLC for the services of organization and management studies analyzing our municipal organization, operations, management structure, and procedures using best practice standards. Does that sound, or should I read the rest of this? Specializing in organizational assessments, public works, and public safety. Does that sound, or did I word that?
I don't think you got the administrator in there. did you?
Oh, how should I,
To evaluate the administrator position.
with the evaluation of the town administrative position.
That's fine.
Is that more inclusive that way?
That's fine.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion by Chairwoman Jamadi, second by Supervisor Bauerheit for the retention of Public Administration Associates LLC for an organizational and management study of town municipal structure and operations and procedures using best practice standards and the evaluation of a town administrator position. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.